I got fined for smoking my own cured meat at home. I just want to ask, what's going on these days? If I make a cucumber salad at home, would I get fined for that too? Fireworks are banned now. Slaughtering New Year pigs is banned. Smoking cured meats is banned. And even burning paper for ancestral worship during the Lunar New Year is banned. What's happening? Does the holiday spirit even exist anymore? Can people still live like this?
As Lunar New Year approaches, the Chinese government's year-end money grab has been reactivated. To meet annual targets, local governments are resorting to extreme measures, even targeting traditional customs. Recently in Guang'an, Sichuan, a man in his 60s was fined 200 yuan, about $30, for smoking cured meat at home. Local authorities cited air pollution as the reason. Smoking cured meat is a centuries-old tradition in Sichuan and Chongqing, deeply rooted in the culture of the region. However, community officials labeled it a violation and imposed a fine. The man was also required to sign a pledge promising not to smoke meat at home again and agreeing to accept any punishment if he reoffends. The incident went viral online, sparking widespread criticism of what many described as arbitrary fines by local authorities. In response, the township government issued a statement announcing that the 200 yuan had been refunded to the man. A TikToker commented in a video.
After being exposed, you refunded the fines, but what if no one exposed it? Would you have just pocketed the money? These elderly farmers live on a pension of just about 100 yuan a month, and you fine one of them 200 yuan in one go. How is that any different from robbery?
Another TikToker named Old Duan said,
If it was legitimate and lawful, why did you refund the fines? Returning the money proves there was no legal basis. It's just abuse of power. Who gave you the right to ban even a whiff of smoke? Fining people everywhere in the name of environmental protection. Is this because you're desperate for money? Back in the day, you'd wake up to the sight of smoke curling from chimneys, the sounds of chickens, ducks and geese, fat piglets running around, and dogs barking. That was life, full of warmth and tradition. Now it's all disappearing. If this keeps up, even the tradition of curing meat will vanish. At this rate, everything our ancestors passed down will be gone.
Some commentators pointed out that in recent years, policies influenced by environmental experts have led to bans on home smoking of cured meat in many areas. Instead, authorities have introduced public smoking facilities. While this appears to address environmental concerns, they argue that centralized smoking produces even more thick smoke, causing greater pollution. Beyond the restrictions on smoking cured meat, there have been other measures targeting traditions. On January 19, a residential community in Anyang, Henan, announced the government directive prohibiting the purchase and use of fireworks during the Lunar New Year. The notice warned that violators would face detention, fines, and the cancellation of family benefits, including elderly subsidies, pensions, and medical insurance.
这不过年了吗?
It's almost Chinese New Year, so we bought some fireworks to celebrate. Then they came over and said the products didn't meet quality standards, and the fireworks weren't environmentally friendly. They confiscated everything, saying it would be destroyed. Then they hauled away truckloads of fireworks and set them off all at once. The explosions sounded like an atomic bomb going off, echoing all day. Smoke filled the air so much you couldn't even open your eyes. Apart from deafening your ears, you couldn't see anything. It was like an apocalypse. The funny thing is, we paid for those fireworks, but they ended up enjoying the show. And the best part? When we set them off, it's polluting the air. But when they do it, it's somehow perfectly legal.
Some people commented, they're just trying to make some extra cash. It's all about lining their pockets. They never come up with solutions for farmers who are old and have no money for retirement. It's like wolves coming up with ideas to help sheep. It's never in their favor. Our folk culture, food traditions, and heritage are being eroded bit by bit. There's an old saying in China that setting off fireworks during the New Year can drive away evil spirits. I didn't believe it before, but now I do. The demons are scared. Every year around the New Year, it becomes peak season for local governments to grab money. Even when people are struggling, they're still forced to help fill the government's financial holes. A TikToker reminded drivers heading home for the holidays to avoid giving rides to others. If you get caught, it's just not worth the trouble.
春节开车回家的老乡们，如果
To all the folks driving home for the holiday, if you're thinking about sharing a ride to split gas costs, be careful. If traffic officials catch you, the fines range from 8,000 to tens of thousands of yuan. Every year, people get fined for this. These officials will make full use of their authority. Once caught, they'll question your passengers one by one, and if anyone slips up and mentions paying for gas, you're done for. A fine like that could ruin the joy of going home for the new year, leaving you with a bill that wipes out months of earnings.
The most common fines often happen when people are stopped by traffic police while riding bicycles or electric scooters. A video circulating online shows an incident in Shanghai's Huangpu district where a resident had a confrontation with traffic police.
How could I not be frustrated? You've been following me for so long. You're not cooperating. How am I not cooperating? How am I not cooperating?
The resident was stopped while riding an electric scooter and was told to pay a fine on the spot in cash. He argued that fines should be issued with an official citation first, not demanded immediately, as this lacks legal basis. He clarified that he was not refusing to pay, but wanted the fine handled through the proper process. However, the officer insisted on immediate payment, leading to a heated exchange.
You fine me, so issue the ticket first, okay? Just give me the ticket. If you can't issue one, let me tell you this. I'm busy. If you don't give me the ticket, you're just detaining me for no reason. I don't have time to argue. Either write the ticket or I'm leaving. I'll scan your code. I've got a credit card. I'll pay.
Many people criticize the situation, commenting, "This is clearly about collecting extra revenue, and the officer just wants to pocket the money." Even if you're robbing people, at least make up a reason. Why do enforcement officers always wear masks these days? Another recent controversy involved a man fined for refusing an air quality test. According to reports from Chinese media, in Huaibin County, Henan, Mr. Li, the owner of a barber shop, was repeatedly approached by local health bureau enforcement officers. They claim barbershops must provide an air quality test report. If not, he would need to pay a 400 yuan fee for the test or face penalties. Mr. Li, who has run his business for over a decade, said he had never heard of such a rule before. He refused to comply. In response, individuals claiming to be health bureau officers began harassing him daily, even preventing him from opening his shop. What kind of air quality testing is this? The air in China is already full of toxins anyway. I've been running shops for over a decade, living in places like Shanghai and Jiangsu, and I've never heard of this kind of testing before. Now they're making it an annual thing? One commenter remarked, "Don't worry, with so many businesses closing down these days, if this keeps up, everyone will give up. Then what's the point of running anything?" A TikToker commented, "Strange things happen every year, but this one takes the cake. Barbershops needing air quality tests." Even barbershops have to do air quality tests now, and if you don't have a report, you get fined. It's the end of the year. Are they just trying to squeeze more money out of us? If the health department inspectors hadn't come knocking to collect fees, us regular folks wouldn't even know. Now even the air costs money. The TikToker questioned the logic. How can a barbershop control the air quality outside? Isn't this over the top? Local health authorities claim the tests are optional, but if people are being harassed and their livelihoods threatened, how is it optional? In another case, a female street vendor in Ningbo, Zhejiang, who was still recovering from illness, was trying to make ends meet by selling goods. She was harassed by local urban management officers who threatened to confiscate her gas cylinder and demanded that she borrow money to pay a fine. The video shows the female street vendor surrounded by urban management officers. She pleads with them, saying, "How about 30 yuan? I can borrow 30 yuan from someone." One officer responds, "If you can borrow 30 yuan, why not 50? The vendor continues, "I'm really struggling. Please fine me less." In recent years, China's economy has been in steep decline, with reduced income across industries and strained local government finances. In 2024, local government borrowing reached 9.8 trillion yuan, a year-on-year increase of about 5%. This marks the highest borrowing level in history, with around 6 trillion yuan used to borrow new funds to repay old debts. To increase revenue and sustain administrative expenses, local governments nationwide have ramped up efforts to extract money from citizens, initiating what some call a money-grabbing mode. One clear example is the escalation of fines, with frequent reports of exorbitant penalties. In one case, an elderly vendor in Fujian earned 14 yuan selling celery, but was fined 100,000 yuan. Police in some regions have even pursued entrepreneurs across provinces, creating widespread discontent in the business sector. On January 6, Chinese state broadcaster CCTV unusually reported on a corruption case involving the Traffic Police Division in Yuncheng, Shanxi Province. Dozens of officers were implicated in turning public service counters into personal cash collection points. They reportedly created layers of obstacles for vehicle inspections, extorting payments from compliant vehicles while allowing non-compliant ones to pass after bribes. The practice of imposing arbitrary fines as a means of generating revenue is not new in China, despite repeated directives from the State Council to strictly prohibit using fines for income generation. Little has changed. China expert Yue Shan pointed out that while the government occasionally exposes corruption cases, these revenue-generating practices are implicitly encouraged by Beijing. Local governments face significant financial shortfalls. In the past, they relied on land sales for income, but with that revenue source drying up and massive local debt, they've resorted to taking money from citizens through arbitrary fines and fees, often under the guise of administrative enforcement. U.S.-based scholar Wu Zhuolai commented that the Communist Party's system relies on commands and orders to address urgent issues. However, in doing so, it often creates even more problems. He described the CCP's system as fundamentally unresolvable. Data from China's Ministry of Finance revealed that in the first 11 months of 2024, general public budget revenues declined year-on-year, with tax revenues falling 3.9%. However, non-tax revenues, which include fines and confiscations, rose by 17%. In October and November alone, non-tax revenues grew by approximately 40% year-on-year, the fastest rate on record. While not all non-tax revenue comes from fines, the lack of transparency fuels speculation about its sources. Some commenters questioned the system, saying the slogans say they serve the people, but in reality, they're punishing the people. And where do all these fines go? Don't we have the right to know? Others remarked, grassroots governance in China has turned into fine when you can, take when you can. Ordinary people have become the government's cash machines. Meanwhile, those in power drink exclusive liquor, enjoy premium meat, and live lavishly, completely indifferent to the struggles of the lower classes. On November 7, 2025, an earthquake struck Shigatse, Tibet. 4 days later, a man shared a video explaining why he chose not to donate to the disaster relief efforts.
When the Gansu Qinghai earthquake happened, I donated 2,000 yuan. But this time, for the Shigatse earthquake, I didn't donate. Why? Because I've already paid my dues. A couple of years ago, I went on a road trip through Tibet, and while driving in the Shigatse area, I got fined 1,200 yuan. Why? The speed limit on the road was 60 kilometers per hour, but in one section, it suddenly dropped to 40 kilometers per hour. I didn't notice and was going 62, so I got caught and fined. According to the rules, you're not fined if you're driving up to 60 kilometers per hour in a 40 kilometer per hour zone, but exceeding it by more than 20 kilometers per hour gets you fined. I accepted that. I broke the rule, but 1,200 yuan? That's way too much. I checked the national regulations online, and the standard fine for this should have been 300 yuan. Even if it were 30 yuan, I'd understand, but 1,200? That's an extra 900 on top. According to the Shigatse traffic police, any fine under 2,000 yuan is legal, and they said 1,200 was actually lenient. So I just want to ask the Shigatse police, what's the purpose of these fines? Are they meant to educate people, or is it just a way to make money?
The driver added that in a short span of time, he saw more than 10 people fined the same amount. He claimed that collecting fines had become a major revenue source for the Shigatse traffic police. He remarked, "If you have any conscience, transfer the extra fines you've collected to the disaster zone. If the money is truly used to help those affected, then at least it would be worth it." Others noted that sporadic fines no longer seem to satisfy local authorities' growing appetite for revenue. Some suggested that raising toll fees has become a faster way to generate funds, and there seems to be no stopping the trend of penalties.
I woke up and it felt like the sky had fallen. Everyone was expecting the promise of 5,000 kilometers of free highways, but instead, we got news of toll hikes on some expressways. Now, small cars are charged 0.5 to 1.2 yuan per kilometer, medium cars 1.5 to 2.8 yuan, and large trucks as much as 2.5 to 6 yuan per kilometer. That's an increase of nearly 30%. Just as people are getting ready to head home for the holidays, they raise toll prices. How thoughtful of them, making sure everyone's travel costs go up so clearly.
According to earlier reports, following the CCP's third plenary session in July 2024, the government introduced several fiscal and tax measures. Among them was the decision to appropriately decentralize control over non-tax revenues such as highway tolls to local governments. Since the COVID-19 outbreak, China's economy has continued to shrink, and the number of free highways appears to be decreasing. Over the past year, local governments in China have begun reinstating or building new toll stations on national highways. David Huang, an American economist, explained that with local governments across China facing financial difficulties, more regions are likely to adopt toll systems. However, this could lead to significant societal issues, such as increased logistics costs, impacting the transportation and manufacturing industries. It may also discourage domestic travel. Moreover, foreign investors might view the excessive fees as a negative factor, further damaging China's business environment.